Hello, this is David Chill, the hot foil guru from the hotfoiluk.com website and Versatility in Print based in the UK. I thought I'd do a quick video in reply to some of the questions that you've asked on YouTube, and this one's specifically about different types of card or paper stock you can use to hot foil print, as there seems to be some confusion. People are not sure what they can print on and what they can't print on. So I'm just going to quickly try and run through some of the different stocks. So first of all, you can literally print on anything from a piece of tissue paper going right the way up to a piece of thick board, depending on how thick an item your machine can take. But most standard hot foil machines will do anything from a 2-ply serviette going up to 80 and 100 gram paper, and then going right the way through some of the GF Smith boards that go up to the XXX boards, go up to 1050 gram. And then if your machine has a variable head, you can then print on something that could be 1, 2, 3, 4 inches thick. So basically any thickness of paper or board that you can come across. The next question is, what is the easiest type of board to print on? And probably that's quite easily explained. You have both coated boards and papers and uncoated boards and papers. And as a general or rough rule of thumb, if you have a coated stock, and what I mean by that is either a silk paper or a gloss paper or a machine finished paper, that tends to be slightly easier to foil print onto than an uncoated stock. And what I mean by that is something that has a matte finish to it. So something like GF Smith Colour Plan, and I'm just going to show you some here. This would be called an uncoated matte stock, and this not always, but often can be slightly more difficult or problematic to print onto than something like this, which would be a gloss or coated stock. The next thing is, can you print on textured card or textured board? The simple answer to that is yes, of course you can. The deeper the texture or the more undulating the board, the more difficult it will be to print onto, because you have to get your sort of foil into that undulation, into those grooves. But again, it's quite straightforward. You just need to apply some more pressure. The thing you perhaps need to be careful of is you don't put too much pressure on, and instead of printing onto the board, you start to get image coming through the back of it and raising out the back of the board, so it's punched too far in. Here we have an example where we foil printed. This would be a Conqueror Contour, so it has like a hammer finished or undulating text, but you can see that the text has gone on there perfectly well. But if you're a beginner, maybe start off on smoother and slightly coated stock, and you should get a better result until you're more practiced with the machine and what you can do. The next one that people ask is, can you deboss into paper? And I suppose the quick answer is no, it's not very good. What you need to have is you need to have a board that is compressible. So something like an 80 gram paper, if you try and go into the paper, there isn't any thickness in that paper or give, and so instead of compressing it, you just tend to punch out through the back. So you will get a depression, but then you'll get a heavy image coming on the back when you turn it over. Something like anything above about 350 gram and above, so a 540 gram, 700 gram, 1050 gram, some of the expensive and thicker GF Smith boards, you can get a really good deboss into that material where you can feel the indent. And of course you can do the same with leather. So the next question is, it's almost the opposite, is what can we emboss? So again, some of the slightly thinner boards may be going up to 350 gram, anything from say 100 gram paper upwards to 350. They'll be a lot easier to emboss. And the embossing, debossing is where you go into the material, embossing is where you push it out. And so you would have both a male and a female die on your hot foil machine, and you line them up together so when your machine comes down or when it's a platen machine and they meet together, the two perfectly synchronize to give you your emboss. And here you've got an example of something that's been foiled and then embossed. So embossed is where it sticks out, and I don't know if the camera will catch it, but here you can see the opposite image where you can see it being raised from the inside. Here we have an example. This one is a GF Smith 1050 gram board, so a very thick stock. It's been triple X'd, which means on this particular one you can see there's a colour on the top, a colour on the bottom, and a colour sandwiched in between. And on this one we were able to foil print onto the front, and then the customer on the back wanted a deboss, and so you can do that and the image won't appear on that side because of the thickness of that board. This one is a blind emboss. What it means by blind, you can have a blind emboss or a blind deboss. Means you're punching either into the material or punching out of the material, and you're not using a foil. So here you can see there is no colour whatsoever, you're just using the stock to create your effect, and it can be very effective indeed. Here's an example of a black board, and what we've done is we've put a heavy deboss on there, and if you feel it, you can feel the impression going into the stock. So I hope that's helped all of you out there and just answered a few of the questions that we get asked through the YouTube channel of what you can print on, what stocks you can print on, and what can be embossed and debossed. Just as a final note, always check with your paper supplier and ask them how suitable the stock is for foiling. We use a lot of GF Smith board when we create wedding stationery for customers, and it's superb. It is quite expensive, and some of them can be quite tricky, so be aware of that. And some of them have a very heavy embossing on them, and if you're doing very fine type on a very heavily embossed board, then it will break up slightly. And the same goes if you have a very solid area on a very textured surface. Be aware that you aren't going to get a perfect block image. You will see the grain of the board and the grain of the embossing underneath. So thank you very much. I've been David Chill at the hotfoiluk.com website. You can find us at www.hotfoiluk.com or on our UK telephone number 01527 871 500. And do feel free to call me. I do like to talk to customers where I can explain a lot more than just sending out a standard email. Thank you very much.